He dies.
Commit or you're
I'm
a
fucking
bitch.
insane.
We're committing, baby!
Bitch.
I'm
That
fucking
actually wasn't
insane.
even that close.
Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Friendgame podcast. We are starting episode 6. My name is Ian. I'm here with my good friend Alex.
Hey guys.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, a little tired from last night, but
I'm sleepy also, yeah.
yeah. Agreed.
We were both up late last night because at the time of recording, we are one day post Day 1 Vault of Glass Part 2 for Destiny 2. They re-released a classic Destiny 1 raid in Destiny 2, so we were trying to get the Day 1 clear for the unique cosmetic things and stuff. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today, is that the new Day 1 remastered Vault of Glass experience and our opinions, what we thought of it. You know, there were a few changes that were kind of like we weren't sure really what to expect, since it's like is old content being brought into a new game. How similar or how different was it going to be? We weren't exactly sure. So now we know, and there were some pretty interesting changes and stuff. So we figured that would be a great time to talk about it, since it's fresh in our minds since we just did it yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, cause the term remake and remaster are kind of like two different things, right? So I would almost classify this as like a remake more than a remaster.
Yeah, remaster is usually just like updated, like
Graphically,
visually, or yeah. And this was like there's actual new stuff in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But,
reimagining, remaster, or like remaking, yeah, something
yeah.
to that effect.
Yeah. I'll get more into that later in this episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the changes that were made. So I guess we'll start. A good place for us to start, I think, would be what is the Vaults of Glass, how it worked in the past in Destiny 1, things like that, just because, you know, we're not going to assume that everyone listening in is a Destiny player or has been a Destiny player or knows exactly what it is. So
yeah.
figured we should start with that, and then we can dive board off of that when we're done explaining. So
all right. I think a good place to, I guess a good question to start out with here is, something that one of our friends had asked us earlier when we were discussing in a group chat was, what is a raid in Destiny? Because as much, you know, anyone who's heard of Destiny has heard of the raids. So, you want to give kind of like a small rundown of, you know, what you think a raid would be?
yeah, they're pretty unique as far as like MMO raids go, because like if you're gonna compare it to other MMOs like WoW or, you know, any of the big ones, they're different than WoW raids in that they're much smaller. Because WoW raids, like a small raid is like 15, 20 people.
Right.
I think I haven't played WoW in a very long time, but that's what I have been told recently by others that play it. A small raid in WoW is like 20-ish people. Destiny, it's 6. It's a 6-man team, and that's it.
Right.
And then like people actually go lower, but those people are crazy. So. 6-man activity where there's like it's encounter based, so you like go in and do encounters and fight bosses basically.
Yeah.
And you know they all have a general theme that Bungie likes to do in the Destiny raids is there's like 1 or 2 or 3 core mechanics that kind of like build up off on top of each other as you go through the encounters. So like examples are like if you do the first encounter has a mechanic with like tossing a ball around, that is going to be prevalent throughout the rest of the raid, and you kind of build off of and like, you know, attach extra things. And then the final encounter has like a bunch of the mechanics that you've been working with just like turned up to 10, you know.
Right.
It's kind of like the function, the flow of how Destiny raids work. Vault of Glass is a little bit of an outlier in that it was the first Destiny raid. So the quote unquote Destiny raid formula kind of hadn't been flushed out at that point because it was the first one, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So Vault of Glass is very like mysterious and like very like discovery based, and there weren't a whole lot of mechanics in the original Vault of Glass. Like the first couple of like encounters, if you could even call them that, are just like fighting waves of enemies, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. The fighting the waves of enemies it was essentially, it was almost like playing wave defense for a very long period of time.
It was
back
like
in
a
the day.
tower defense
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, where like the arena was 3 lanes basically, and you had to defend these three. They were called confluxes. They're just structures you had to defend because the enemies that you were fighting were trying to get to the structures and sacrifice themselves to them to then cause your team to wipe and die.
Yeah.
And basically, the first encounter is just, all right, defend 1, and then defend 2, and then defend 3. And
Yep.
it's just like killing enemies, and that's basically what the encounter is. There's not really a mechanic to that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that was prevalent throughout like a large portion of the original Vault of Glass raid, right? Because was the in the encounter after that, it was just okay. Now instead of defending stuff, you have to destroy this thing, these things that show up, and you and your team have to kind of split up and destroy the things while also killing enemies that show up. And then after that is a boss fight where you're essentially doing what you just did, but with the boss. But it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't like a puzzle. I think that my thoughts with like, I like the way that you described it with introducing the mechanics and stuff. And another way that I could put that with is, it's like you. It's like they like to stack pancakes on top of themselves, and each pancake is a puzzle. And then, like, by the end of the raid, you just have all these stacks of pancakes, all these puzzles that you've learned already, and you just have to do them all at the same time.
Yeah, Vault of Glass does that less so than other raids because the formula's kind of been flushed out and they've learned from like previous raids and stuff, so they've added more and things have become more like you're saying, like mechanics that introduce themselves and stack on top of each other. Vault of Glass does that less, but Vault of Glass doesn't do that a zero amount because in, like you were saying, you do the first 2 encounters and then the boss. The boss for that one is called the Templar, and that introduces a relic that one player gets to use, and then that relic is used again in the next 2 encounters. So it still has that like introducing of a mechanic, and then it kind of goes along with you to the next encounter or so, where you have to use it in different ways to like you're using the relic in this case, but using it in a different way in the next 2 encounters, which is still cool that they're like introducing the mechanic, you learn how to use it, and then kind of apply your knowledge throughout the raid.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much it. We don't need to go into all the nitty-gritty details of old Vault of Glass.
Yeah.
That's
basically how it goes.
Yeah, it's less mechanically intense than a lot of the other Destiny raids that they've come to be known, because like Vault of Glass, obviously, like we said, was the first one, so they were still getting their feet wet. But now that we've talked about the original Vault of Glass, we can now shift gears and talk about the changes that were made for the re-release of Vault of Glass in Destiny 2, and kind of how they took the shell that was the old one, they've brought it over and they've added some stuff to it. And in my opinion, I'm just going to come out and say it right now, way better than the original Vault of Glass.
I was just
way better.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. It's like, wait, but like, what did you expect? What was your expectation? Was coming into this, because our day one, we were like, all right, we're getting Vault of Glass, and they've said that they were going to make changes, but how much are they going to change, right?
I went into it extremely, like, I was not expecting it to be as fun as it was.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be old Vault of Glass, but I have an Anarchy now.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting it to be way easier just because the weapons and the subclasses and the supers and the abilities that we have now are just going to trivialize Vault of Glass as we had known it up until that point.
Right.
Basically, we have all these amazing weapons and all these easy to apply damage buffs and damage debuffs on enemies. We have ridiculous AoE damage. We have ridiculous survivability. I thought it was just going to be a cakewalk. But with the changes that they introduced in basically all of the encounters, it was super fun because we were talking about this a little bit before. People who have never done Vault of Glass before would have gone in and had a great time. And old original Destiny 1 players who have done Vault of Glass hundreds of times went into this and still had to kind of figure stuff out again, which was super fun to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it made all of the encounters feel important.
Yes.
I
agree with that.
There wasn't one room where you're just like, okay, I can turn my brain off. Like, no, you actually had to be there for everything. Because with how the raid design had changed from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, a lot of Destiny 2's raids are more team coordination focused. So you and your team have to really work together and coordinate together.
It would be hard for somebody to slack in any of the Destiny 2 raids, where, as in Vault of Glass, one person could do all of the work in the entire raid, basically.
Yeah, they do all of the hard work and everyone else just kind of like follows, right? It doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah, not the case in new Vault of Glass, for sure. 100% agree.
Yeah. So,
I guess we can give an example of that. In the first boss encounter, the Templar, like we were talking about, there's the relic holder that gets introduced, and the relic holder's main job is to they can run around and block damage in order to stop the boss from teleporting around the arena, which was an original mechanic in the original Vault of Glass, but usually that was it. The relic holder could just bounce back and forth between the two teleport spots, and they were basically doing the work the entire time, where everyone else was just shooting the boss until he died. In the new version, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, they made the other teleport locations like available for him to go to off the start, which originally wasn't the case.
Yes.
I think. So the boss had more movement options, which means more of your teammates had to be aware of, like, oh snap, the relic holder's too far away to block this teleport, so someone else has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you had to work with, the boss would detain a member of your fire team, and it could detain the relic holder or anybody else, so your teammates had to work together to break them out of the detainment quick enough so people could continue doing damage to the boss, but also quick enough that the detainment wouldn't kill your teammate, and obviously that's bad.
Yeah.
And that's way more team oriented in this version of the raid than previously. So that's just an example of how they shifted the responsibilities during the encounters off of the one person and onto the team, which is always good, I think.
Yeah. Quick little side note about the detainment mechanic in the original Vault of Glass. Anyone that was detained could break out of it themselves, but
you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, in Destiny 2, for this Vault of Glass, your teammates have to break you out. So
you cannot shoot the detainment from inside of it. You have to wait for your teammates.
Yeah, your teammates have to shoot you out and make sure that you get out, because if you don't, then you end up dying. But it wasn't a problem back then in Destiny 1 because you could take care of it yourself.
Yeah, that's a good call. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Important detail, actually.
Yeah. Another thing that was changed about that boss fight was the amount of oracles that spawned.
Oh, you're right. I'm just forgetting all of these details because I actually, to be honest, like we were talking about before, I did not do Vault of Glass in Destiny 1 like nearly as much as other people. It's like there's a lot of details about stuff that was or wasn't in the original that I probably just don't remember because I haven't done it that much. So
yeah, it's a little, it's a little fuzzy with the memory too, though, because that's been
Plus,
so
it's
long.
like it's been so long because it was the first raid, and then other raids came out after that, so you actually didn't do a whole lot of Vault of Glass throughout the Destiny 1 life cycle until the Age of Triumph kind of era of that game, where they kind of brought the old stuff back.
Yeah, and even then, that was on a weekly. That was kind of like a weekly rotation. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the amount of oracles that spawn. So, you want to go ahead and explain how the oracles worked?
Well, yeah. So, did any Oracle spawn during the original Vault of Glass for that boss fight, or
Uh,
just at the beginning, or?
it was two of them periodically, but you had such a long period of time between
Right.
them.
Okay. So I guess that's something we forgot to explain. The oracles are these. I don't even. There's like a whole lore thing about what exactly they are, but they're basically weapons that the raid boss enemies would use to try and kill your fire team, your teammates. And they're basically just like floating cubes of data
Yeah.
because you're fighting against like mechanical enemies, so they use data, whatever. Um, in order that you don't die during the fight, three oracles spawn, and they spawn in a very specific order. So not only does the relic person during this entire time have to be jumping around the arena, stopping the boss from teleporting, all the rest of the fire team has to be doing damage to the boss, and then also three people, ideally for the three oracles, have to spread off from the main team, find the three oracles in the arena, and know what order they spawn in to then kill them, to destroy them in that exact order to continue the fight. And usually you don't have to do that because the relic holder in the original version of the raid could just like kill the both of them by themselves because you had so much time to do it. And that's
Mm,
again shifting that responsibility during the fight off of the one person and onto the team
yeah.
because you have to kill three, so it's just more you have to destroy, and you also have to be very specific, and you have to be extremely quick because the time period from when you're able to damage them to when they have to die is very very quick.
Mm,
Otherwise, you just have to you die and you have to restart. So
yeah. The subtle change that made such a big difference between the two Oracle cycles was that in the original, you can kill the Oracles in any order you want. It doesn't
yep,
matter.
just you have to find, search, and destroy. Basically,
Yep.
was the name of the game there.
Yeah.
Find them, kill them. That's it.
Yep. But with how Destiny 2 has evolved, or how Destiny has evolved in general, was now they made it in a set order, um, which is interesting because you know some of the other raids began to kind of adapt that, right, where uh, your team has to communicate, hey, this is like the order that we have to do things in. So
Hmm.
that was a really good change for that
Yeah,
encounter,
it
or
it
just in
add
general for that.
like you said, it was a very small change, but it made the fight so much more dynamic than it was previously.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was just break the shield, kill him.
Yep, that was
That's
it.
it. But now it's pick up the relic, kill the oracles, then break the shield, then get your guy out of the detainment, then stop a teleport, then do more oracles, then run back, then do another detain while you're doing damage this entire time. So it's just way more, not even way more, just like an additional moving part that actually made it so much more fun, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Because then that, like, we've always, this is something that we've talked about with a couple of our clan mates and raid team members when we're talking about stuff like Destiny raids are like, you never have to do it optimally, but the better you get as a team, the faster encounters can go,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a gripe that some people may have with one of the Destiny 1 raids, where that it didn't matter how good you were at the fight, it just always took the same amount of time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
In this specifically, the better you were as a team at the mechanics and at the encounter, the faster it would go. Because if you were just like pumping damage and doing all your optimal, like debuffing the boss, buffing your teammates, getting all the teleports and the detainments dropped really fast, you can burn down the boss, and then that would result in you having to do less of the oracle mechanics, which just like feels good to do. Like, oh, we did that in only 2 oracle phases because we're just getting so good at doing damage, and that's just like something that feels good to like. You can actually tell that you're getting better as a raid team when you do stuff like that, and that's always fun to see and fun that you can do that now in this raid.
Yeah, yeah. The original Vault of Glass just felt like it dragged on forever because,
Yeah.
as you said, was it it didn't matter how good your team was. It always took the same amount of time, essentially. The only thing that could change back in Destiny 1's Vault of Glass was the amount of damage that you did. And that was it. But all the mechanics that you learned took the same amount of time. There was never any way to speed that up.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, the example that I always use is like the final boss of King's Fall, Oryx.
Mm.
Like you can't make that fight go faster.
Yeah, you can.
So like you could be like an amazing raid team and an average raid team, they'd take the same amount of time to do that encounter. But for this one, if you burn down the boss, you can one phase them and like have to do none of the mechanics technically.
Yeah.
Because I've already seen YouTube videos of people doing that fight and just like you do the first Oracle phase to start the fight and then you just kill them.
Yeah.
Because all those guys are really good and like optimal damage setup loadouts and getting the detainments broke really fast and the relic holders moving very fast to stop all the teleports because you still have to stop like 1 or 2 teleports. So everyone's still doing the like as optimized as you can get to do the fight, and then you can tell like they're in the fight for 60 seconds.
Yeah. Do you wanna go around and talk about like how the challenges made you feel too, while we go through each of the encounters?
Yeah, we'll do that as we go through the encounters. So yeah, different with. There's always, I guess we'll say, whenever our raid comes out in Destiny, there's always a world's first race to see who can do the fight the fastest and get the like the first ever clear of the raid. And then also there's like rewards for doing the raid within 24 hours of its release.
Mm-hmm.
Because Vaults of Glass is like, it's already a thing and it's being like re-released, they did something unique for the day 1 race this time, since like people know like it's not a brand new raid that you have to figure everything out like from scratch. What they did was you had to beat the raid on its normal mode with its contest modifier that limits your power level, like normal. But then also you had to do the challenge mode version, which introduced an additional challenge on top of the mechanics of every encounter. And then when you completed that, you got additional rewards for like your 24-hour clear, things like that.
Yeah. That was how they counted the world's first clear, was clearing the challenge mode.
Clearing the challenge mode, which you had to do the normal mode first to get access to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So the example for the Templar fight is something we accidentally did during our normal mode run as well. We were talking about how the relic holder can stop the boss from teleporting. Even if you fail at stopping the boss from teleporting, you can still continue the fight. It's just the boss moves, and then you have to just like do your damage phase from a different spot.
Yep.
Or something like that. The challenge for that encounter is to not let him teleport at all. So it's basically whenever you start the DPS phase by breaking his shield, it's just a constant DPS phase until the boss dies.
Yep.
So like that is not a necessary thing to do, but that was the challenge mode. But we accidentally we did that anyways for our normal mode because that's been the challenge mode for that encounter, like historically, even in Destiny 1.
Mm.
So it was fun to use the strategies that we've kind of used to use and kind of adapted them to then help us with the challenge mode. That was actually the challenge mode for this run, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. I was the slight Oracle change made it a lot more hectic and chaotic than the original as well.
Yeah.
Because when the Oracles spawned, they all of a sudden become priority number 1 other than damaging the boss. And then there's consistent enemies spawning and coming in and taking spots on the arena where they can now shoot your relic holder and deal damage to them. So now not only do you have to deal with the Oracles, you're also having at least 1 or 2 people try and clear the extra enemies that are on the field to help out the relic holder.
And yeah, that was just one of the challenges. One of the other ones in the encounter previous to that is the killing of the Oracles. The Oracles spawn there's 5 different waves, so it spawns 3 at a time, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. And the challenge for that one was no one person could ever destroy the same Oracle twice.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fun dance that you had to do around the arena. All the Oracles have a set spawn location, but the ordering and since there's 8 spawn locations, and since there's a set of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not every location is used all the time, but you still had to have someone stationed at every location just in case. So it was a fun little dance to do around the arena where we put everyone in a spot that kind of covered all the locations. When they spawned, we would kill them in order like we were supposed to, and then everyone would kind of like rotate around the entire arena and switch spots. So everyone needed to know what to do in every spot, which was pretty cool. Because
Yeah.
like you said, they've been upping the team play, the teamwork kind of dynamics with all the mechanics in Destiny 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a fun way to introduce the team, like having to play as a team more in this raid, because previously you could just have one person run around to kill all the oracles if they knew the spawns.
Yep.
But now, even if you know where all the spawns are, because all the oracles make a sound when they spawn, so you could actually just like, without even seeing them, know exactly where they all are. But you not only do you have to know where they all are, you had to kill them in the specific order, like we were talking, and then also for the challenge mode, no person could kill the same one, like the same location twice.
Yep.
So again, even if you knew where they all were, you couldn't kill that one because I killed that one in the last rotation, so I have someone else has to get it, otherwise you failed.
Yeah.
So that was fun to introduce yet another kind of axis on which the encounter kind of rotated to make it a little more challenging.
Yeah. And that made it a lot more hectic because now we have less. Now you and your team have less time to clear up the room, to sort of make room for you and your team to breathe in between each one of those spawns, right? Because that was the for our first couple runs of that was our big problem that we were running into, was there was just too many enemies showing up at once, and we just weren't able to kill all of them in between each one of those rotations.
And if you're not trying to do a challenge, it's a little easier to have one or two people dedicated to just killing things, so you don't have to deal with that. But since everyone has to be like super hyper focused, dialed in on the oracles part, because you have to know not only which ones are spawning, but when they're spawning in the order, and which ones you've killed already. So it's like you have to focus on all that. Oh, and then also kill all the enemies that are trying to run at you.
Yeah.
So once you have more things to focus on, you have to have everyone focused on them, and you can't have the one or two people dedicated to just making it easier for everybody.
Yep.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That is there's also the complexes challenge that we
I guess we kind of brushed over. That one's a
over.
little less involved than the other ones.
Yeah.
During that encounter where you're doing tower defense, basically, there are certain big enemies called wyverns, and the challenge for that one was to basically kill them at the very last second before they're about to kill you, because they would walk up to the confluxes and then begin to sacrifice themselves to then make it like blow up and kill you all.
Mm-hmm.
You had to wait until they were sacrificing themselves in order to kill them. So it was basically like wait. All right, kill it really fast. All right, we're good. So it was very like you had to kind of try to kill everything else around them, but keep them safe as they walked towards you and just shot at you repeatedly. So it's not like he's not just gonna like dawdle down the lane and just like, oh, I'm gonna go sacrifice myself. No, he's gonna like try to kill you as he's doing that.
Yeah.
And then also you have to wait until the very last second to kill him. So that added a little bit of like that shift the dynamic of the encounter is just usually it's just kill it like everything, kill everything as fast as possible just to make sure the complexes are safe, to like, oh, we have to like escort mission this guy down to the conflux while killing his friends and then kill him at the very end. So it like kind of shifted the pacing of the encounter from being very fast paced to very like controlled, which was interesting for that encounter.
Yeah. And that encounter doesn't have much going on anyway, but that challenge was interesting.
That's the boring tower defense one.
Moving on, the maze. The maze didn't seem like it changed at all.
Yep, there's a Destiny's very famous for its mazes and jumping puzzles in its raids. So this is the original Gorgon maze, where it's just like enemies that patrol around and you have to stealth your way around them. So that was pretty straightforward. I did watch a video today, though. There's a bunch of hidden stuff in that maze that we have to go back and do. So we'll have to do that. But that part's pretty straightforward. You just third-person peek your way through it. It's a big deal.
Just run the route.
Just run the route.
Shoutouts to
the
lullaby.
The lullaby. And then after that, there's a jumping puzzle where there's a big chasm you have to cross, but you just like
jump across it.
Yeah, there's platforms that appear and disappear that you kind of have to scurry along, and that part's cool because this is something I've heard a bunch of content creators and stuff say, and I agree with the sentiment. Is that Destiny is the coolest where it gets to show off its size.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in this kind of big chasm-y area, because the raid takes place underground on the planet Venus, because it's like some like high-tech stuff going on. But like you're underground in this big underground chasm, and you look across, and it's just like you can't see the bottom. It's just very dark, and like there's just all these like caves and walls around you, and you just feel very small, which is super cool, like aesthetically to look at. It's just very cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the jumping puzzle part, and then usually the next encounter after that is the one right before the final boss. It's the Gatekeeper's encounter, and the original Vault of Glass Gatekeeper's encounter was like a pushover. It was it was not very involved at all. The quote unquote boss, like the big enemy you fight, just like dies immediately.
Yep.
It is not threatening at all. You would just like stand in the doorway and everyone would say 1, 2, 3, go, and everyone would shoot him once with a sniper and he would die. Like, or like I guess you shoot rockets at him or something.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then this is the last two encounters take place in the same room, which again is a pattern for Destiny raids. That kind of is how they go.
Yeah.
Where you learn a mechanic in the room where the final boss is, and then it kind of like compounds on itself for the final fight, which is similar to what happens in this one.
Mm-hmm.
The relic comes back, and you have to open up these two portals on either side of the room to then go into different areas and get additional relics to then fight enemies in like the main central area of the room, you're defending a conflux is how it usually would go. But in this one it's very interesting because they added a debuff that you gain for carrying the relic while you go through one of the portals that forces you to give the relic to a different person, which again, like we've been saying, puts the onus on more than just one person to know what the hell they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Which was a very, very, very welcome change for this encounter specifically, because it was kind of just like one or two people could do all of the work, and then we're like, all right, let's go mid, and then everyone would just sit and shoot stuff. That's not how this encounter goes. Everyone, like basically everyone, I don't remember exactly what our rotation was, if like 4 people or 5 people did the mechanics. But the way the encounter is redesigned forces everyone on the team to know how to do all of the mechanics, which again is just adding to the team play part of the raid.
Yeah. Was it this encounter turns into a relay race essentially. Everyone
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Everyone takes turns holding the relic and moving it around from one side to the other. Since this debuff doesn't allow you to go through the portal twice, right? So
so the start is you open a portal and grab a relic and kill a guy, but then when you exit, you have to go to the other side because a new enemy, like a high priority target, spawns, but you can't then exit the portal, run over to the other side, and then run back in. The debuff doesn't allow you to do that, so then that's where you had to drop it. Someone else had to pick it up and run in.
Yeah.
Do the same thing, drop it off for the next person until you got to the part where you would then go to the middle, which is way more involved than just run in, kill a guy, run out, run in, kill a guy, run out, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, that made it so much more interesting where, you'd have one person run in, kill the high priority target, drop it for the person that was on the inside, and then that person has to run out and then drop it for another person that's on the outside. So it was
very like it had a nice, like when we like actually got into it and figured out how to do everything, it had a nice flow to it.
Yeah.
Where everything was just like boom, then boom, then boom, then boom, then boom. It was very, like I said, it had a flow to it, which is very satisfying to do. Because, previously it was just like, all right, we'll just wait. All right, now we'll kill some stuff. All right, that's it.
Yeah. And then Atheon, because that's basically the encounter, is the relay race and to stand in the center and defend, and now you're at the final boss.
Yeah, the final boss, Atheon, big robot boy.
Oh man, what a big change they made for this guy.
I want to say this one encounter was like close to 50% of our time in our first run of the raid.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Maybe like 40%. Like it was a very large majority of our time was spent just on the final fight because of how many like
Moving parts there are.
there's a lot of moving parts, and like the changes that they made to it made it I don't even know how to
It made it very engaging for the entire team. Everyone had to be
team.
paying attention.
Yeah.
And everyone needed to understand each other, like the callouts together. Because during our starting period of it, we were still trying to figure out where to call things out, what the positions were, you know, the important positions that we need to be on, and it took a lot of time because now everyone had to get on the same page once we did start labeling some stuff with callouts. And then once we actually got on the same page, it made it very easy to be, jump into the consistency of doing the same thing over and over again. The hard part there would have then turned to killing the boss, whereas whereas the problem before was figuring out the puzzle and trying to label those puzzle pieces that we need. But
yeah, I guess we can explain a little bit. The original Vault of Glass for the final boss, you're in this room with the same room as the encounter previous, where it's the two portals either side, and then kind of like a main arena part like in front where the boss kind of stands and moves around, so he has to have space to do that. He eventually teleports 3 random people into one of the sides of the portal, so either left or right, and it's the people that don't get teleported to the outside team to then reopen the portal so the inside team could then fight their way out.
Yep.
With the relic, because when the 3 people get teleported inside, they get a relic. While they're fighting on the inside, some oracles spawn, and they just have to kill them as fast as possible. I don't even remember how many, like 6 kind of spawn in total, kind of periodically while they're in there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
They have to fight through, kill the oracles, and then while the outside team is opening the portal, the inside team then runs out, and then they bring the relic with them, and then they do boss DPS on the big robot boy. And that's basically it. It's just the only callouts that needed to be made during the fight was what side did the inside team get teleported on, left or right, and okay, we're done, we're starting DPS, and then okay, we're done with DPS, get off the platform.
Yep.
And those were basically all of the calls that needed to be made during the original Vault of Glass final boss fight.
Yeah.
But now there's many more different parts. So 3 people still get teleported in, left or right. But instead of 6 oracles just spawning periodically for the inside team, the oracles are actually signaled to the outside team. So the outside team sees three oracles spawn, again, in a very, very specific order. And the outside team has to communicate to the inside team what oracles spawn, where, and in what order. And then that happens 3 separate times. So not only is the inside team fighting enemies that are spawning and killing oracles in a very, very, very specific order, but the outside team actually has something to do during this time now, which they did not in the original Vault of Glass release. They basically just stood on a pillar and killed stuff. Or they didn't actually even need to kill stuff. They just stood on a pillar to open the portal and tried not to die.
Yeah.
But now they have to open the portal. Killing things is, again, not necessary, but very, very encouraged. And then they also have to see the entire arena without dying so they can relay the information that they see to the inside team 3 separate times.
Yeah.
Which is way more involved than it was previously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is all happening too with some new enemies that spawn in the raid. So, in the original Vault of Glass, there were these there was these small fly, like, I call them small. They're not actually really that small, but they're these small flying enemies that would periodically drive up to you, shoot you, and then you kill them and be like, oh yeah, I'll go on with my day. And then there's explodey versions of those guys where they drive up to you, explode, and then if they hit you, you die. But now, in this Vault of Glass, they also put kind of like sniper units in the sky, which is new. So now, not only do you have these two other types of enemies driving up to you that you have to deal with, you also now have to deal with the guys that are shooting you from the sky, while also calling out all of the other stuff that's happening.
Yeah. Before, like with the suicide bombers or like the exploding units, you could kind of just like stand up and out of the way and be safe from them. But you're out in the open then, so you can't do that now in this version of the raid, because if you're standing up on top of something out in the open, all the, like you said, all the long range sniper units just like all laser you at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's very like, before you could ignore the enemies pretty much, and this you 100% cannot. And then plus, like, you're still standing in the room with the boss, so he's gonna shoot you if you're standing on top of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was a really good encounter. That was a lot of fun.
It was super fun. Yeah, it was like, it still had the same spirit of the old encounter, because you're still doing basically all of the same things, but then the additional added on where you have to communicate between the outside and the inside team, like, is, yet again, we're going to say it 15 different times during this episode, it's adding more team play to the 6-man team activity. So it just like feels really good to do.
Yeah, it really makes your team, or it really makes your group work together as a team. You guys are all in, the same gear spinning now, instead of one person is the gear spinning everyone else.
Yeah, one person's kind of just tugging everybody along.
Yep.
But now everyone's working together. Yeah, because it's like hard to like explain without an example of like how the communication kind of has to go.
Yeah.
Because it took us like a long time to like memorize the locations of where all the guys or the things spawn, to then internalize that information, relay that to your team, and then they also have to interpret like, all right, he said this, and now I'm processing what I'm looking at. All right, that means he meant this, which means you're not looking at the same thing, but you have to be on the same page still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that took us a while to do, obviously, but then when we got it down, it was just like boom, let's just like clockwork. You got your 3 call-outs, and you're like, all right, I know exactly what he means, so you just do it in that order.
Oh yeah.
And that was just like, because I'm like, this has been a thing for me where I'm just like very bad, like directionally challenged, I like to say. So when I'm like, if I can't see both things happening at the same time, it's hard for me to like transfer.
Right.
So, and it's hard to like, because I could like do a bunch of runs on the inside and then do a bunch of runs on the outside, and they kind of like put it together.
Yeah.
But like we were saying before, the inside outside team gets determined randomly.
Yeah.
So like I could go like 5 or 6 runs in a row only being on one team, and then the 7th time I'm on the outside team, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Yep.
I'm in a different environment. Like, so it took me a very long time to actually get where all the callouts were.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start, I was kind of just waiting for someone else to shoot first and then shooting that one. But once it finally clicked, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what they mean now. Then it was just boom, boom, like clockwork, and that was just satisfying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of
if anyone picks that kind of stuff up faster, then you're gonna enjoy it way more than I was for the first hour we were doing it. But
yeah, I think like the really cool thing about that encounter too, though, is that everyone needs to learn how to do that, right? Because most of the encounters in those raids either have similar mechanics, or everyone is kind of doing the same thing, or you just assign the job to someone else, right?
There, in other raids, you can have the guy that does the callouts.
Yeah.
Like if you have your one raid leader that just is in on all the raids and knows everything, you can have him do the hard part every time, because you can he's like, all right, I'll do this part because I like doing this part.
Yeah.
For this, it's determined randomly, so you literally everyone has to know what they are.
Yeah, everyone needs to know.
Because let's say even if there's 2 people that know what they're doing, both those people can be on the one team where they have to rely on someone else. So then, you have to know. Otherwise, you just have to reset until you RNG into the smart people being on the outside.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But
I guess you could technically get away with only 4 people needing to know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because then let's say the inside team is 3 people that know what they're doing, and then there's 1 person on the outside. So like, that's how you would guarantee have someone who knew the callouts.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna have 4 people know the callouts, why not just have 6 people know it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That there's no reason to. There's the really good thing is that everyone now has to do their job. No one can slack off. And you'll know if someone is slacking off then in this,
Yeah,
these,
for sure. Like if someone gives a call out for like, all right, it's this, then it's like 1, 2, 3. You give it in that order, but then it's like 1, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Like, you know where the mistake is then.
Yeah.
So it kind of, for me at least, is encouraging to not fuck up. Because like people are gonna they're gonna know. Because like, oh, we shot it in what you said. So the only reason we failed is because what you said was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just the way they did it. They're bringing Vault of Glass in line with the rest of the Destiny 2 raids, where it's very like it's like that. Everyone has a job and has to know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they also know how to do the other jobs too, because you're gonna have to do the other jobs. You can't specialize.
Yeah. There's no specialization anymore. You can, you can make a job easier depending on like what your class is.
You can theoretically get away with it, but for this one at least, since like the one thing is determined randomly, like everyone has to know, and that's just more fun.
Yeah,
personally.
It is.
Because I know there's like, if you don't raid a lot, there's some like argument that could be made for like, oh, I don't raid that much, so I'm like not as experienced, so it's like more pressure on me since I have to learn more to like the floor is a little higher.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry, because there's more things to learn. There's not just like, all right, we'll give you the new guy job.
Yeah.
But I think it's more satisfying because then like just learning that stuff, like it's not like actually that complicated. It'll take you a couple of tries, but like it's fun to learn all that stuff. So I think people should give it a shot anyways if they were apprehensive at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it is intimidating for a new person, right? But it is extremely satisfying when you do get through it, because now you know that, hey, I've now leveled up in this essentially, because now I know how to do this. And if you have your own group of friends that were kind of like, oh, that looks really hard, then you can go and say, if I'm able to do it, then you guys could probably do it too. So overall though, good impressions. Yeah
I was gonna say we talked a lot about exactly what happens in the raid, but not like we talked
opinions.
a little bit about our opinions a little bit here and there. We did, but yeah, I would say like comparatively to what I thought it was gonna be, because I was expecting it to be just like Vault of Glass with better lighting.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now with all the new mechanics and the tweaks to everything, and the fact that Oracles doesn't take 25 minutes, I think this is a big success.
I agree with you. I think this is such a huge step forward. Looking in the future of Destiny for sure.
Because we don't know exactly like was the quote unquote like the raid team, were they involved, or is there like a separate like a Destiny content vault team that kind of works on that? Whoever it was, if they like get the raid, like the Destiny raid team involved to they did a little bit of redesigning. They did a great job with like, it still feels like Vault of Glass.
Yeah.
If you've done it before, but it's just new enough to still be exciting.
Yeah.
That's what I really liked about it, because I was able to like I said before, I didn't do old Vault of Glass that much, but I would have like still been bored if it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
I definitely I definitely understand what they meant after doing the raid, about they modernized it to Destiny 2. Right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Because we've discussed throughout this episode on Destiny 1 raids, there's a lot of moments where one person does the job and everything's okay. Destiny 2 raids, more of a team thing. And when they said they modernized it, I was kind of like, oh, are they just updating?
Yeah, like, what does that even mean?
What does that
But
really mean?
Now it makes
Yeah,
sense. For
now
sure.
it makes sense after thinking about it and actually playing through this updated version of it. Visually, everything looks great. Some of the
everything
lighting,
still looks really nice.
yeah, everything still looks great. Some of the lighting has changed. Some of the colors have changed, kind of stand out more. Dark areas are really dark, where some areas used to be like bright. I think the lighting that changed the most for me was the Gorgon maze. I was like, wow, this place looks a lot darker than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the spooky, scary part of the raid where you're trying to like the enemies that are roaming around in that are just like basically unkillable. So like if you get seen, you're just like, ah, shit, we gotta start over.
Yep.
Just like you can't run away from them either. If they see you, they just like do an attack that just kills you all. So.
Yep. But yeah, overall, this raid has me hopeful, very hopeful for the future. If we do see anything else similar to this.
Yeah, because I don't remember exactly, but I think we've gotten some like news articles and things from developers that have said like it's not just Vault of Glass as far as raids go that are going to be coming to Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've straight up come out and said like we're gonna bring Crota's End and we're gonna bring King's Fall and we're gonna bring Wrath of the Machine into Destiny, but you would think like this Vault of Glass re-release or whatever was received well,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen a whole lot out there that people didn't enjoy any of the changes.
Mm.
So I think it's setting a good precedent for if we're gonna get like one new raid a year and then one old re-release raid a year, I am happy with it.
Yeah.
As a Destiny player, if they're
Right.
gonna continue to re-release Date or Destiny 1 raids, which I've usually been a pretty salty about, like old content instead of new content, I would always prefer new content, 100%. If you gave me the choice, fuck Vault of Glass, give me a new raid.
Right.
But if you're gonna give me one new raid like less frequently, but also re-release Destiny 1 raids, if they get the new Vault of Glass treatment, I'm 100% okay with it.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely okay with it. If it comes down to doing this too, like doing this way, because before it was just gonna be like, oh, it might just be a breeze, and it's not even gonna be called a raid at that point, right? But seeing how things have gone now, it just makes me extremely excited to see, if we do keep up with this, where we're getting one new raid and one old raid, then it actually gets me. It makes me happy because now we're getting two raids, and it's not going to be just the same thing that I've seen in the past. Then, right?
Yeah,
now I can expect something new.
Yeah, you could make the argument like, if I wanted to do Destiny 1 raids, I'll just go play Destiny 1.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've said a couple of times already, they're different enough to where it's like you're still kind of having to engage with and learn a little bit more, figure stuff out, and that's cool.
Yeah,
like, I don't even know if I can like think of what they would change for Crota. Like,
right.
I don't even know. But if that's a possibility, I'm kind of intrigued on
how they would do.
What are the differences going to be?
Right.
What are they going to do? What are they going to change? Something we haven't even talked about yet is from the encounters you like get stuff from them. Like, you get gear obviously for doing the encounters, and even like they brought the old armor back and the old weapons back, but the new weapons not the new weapons. The old weapons have like new perks and stuff you can get on them, so they're like, I'm still excited to get gear, even though like I know, like quote unquote know what the guns are.
Right.
I'm still excited to get them because there's new perks. There's they're like iconic weapons with a different kind of twist on them, and that's still fun.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like the reason why we do the content in the game is to get stuff.
Yeah.
And if the stuff isn't cool, then like whatever.
Yeah.
But the stuff is cool, so that's just like icing on top of the cake for me.
Yeah, I think it's funny too because like this is stuff that we've already gotten in the past, but having it updated and brought, to now where it's even cooler. It's like, you get that nostalgic taste, but you also have that, that new gun feel too, right? Because it's like, oh, we haven't had this in this game yet, but we've had it in the past. So.
And it's still Destiny, so it's still just like the gunplay is it's just fun to shoot guns in the game. So now I get to shoot the fun guns that I used to shoot now.
Yep.
Plus they're also like updated and kind of cool and have like kind of unique little toys I can still play with.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So.
And then something that I wanted to like kind of touch back up on is right in the beginning I talked about remaster versus remake. I feel like this errs on the side of a remake more than a remaster, right? Because usually you would think of a remaster as something as updating it graphically in sound design and stuff like that, or like essentially bringing the same thing to the modern system. Whereas when you think of and updating some quality of life features, right? And then a remake is you're doing the same thing essentially conceptually, but you're changing things, even if it's just like small subtle changes on it that make it more interesting or is updated to the modern standard of that, right?
For sure, yeah. Like just comparing like weapon perks that you get on weapons from Destiny 1 to 2. They're like simpler in Destiny 1, I think. They're just like kill a thing then reload, or kill a thing and then get more damage. But like in Destiny 2, they're like, kills with this weapon give you increased stats, or they help with your abilities, or like Demolitionist is when you get kills with your weapon, it recharges your grenade, and then when you throw your grenade, it reloads the weapon. So there's a little bit of like synergy you can do with there. And we can get new perks that like allow us to do cool, unique builds on our old guns. Yep. Kind of like you said, it remakes them and brings them into the new game, but it's still a Fatebringer. It's still the gun that I like to shoot. It just got this other thing that it does now, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Because that's the iconic gun from original Vault of Glass was a hand cannon like revolver pistol gun called the Fatebringer. That had a very cool perk combination on it. It had a perk called Outlaw, where if you got a precision kill, it increased the reload speed, and then it had a perk called Firefly, where if you got a precision kill, the target exploded and did like an explosion AoE around it. So it was very like hand cannons are precise weapons, and it had these perks that rewarded you for being precise. So you can do that. You can get Firefly on this weapon now, but you can also get other stuff too. So you can have your Firefly Fatebringer, you can have your Demolitionist Fatebringer. So it's still the gun that's fun to shoot and has all these unique synergies you can do with it. But there's more synergies you can do with it now because it's not restricted to the Destiny 1 perk pools, the cool unique Destiny 2 perk pools and stuff. And that's just one weapon.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think overall we've discussed everything. Overall, I loved the raid. Our day one went great. Overall.
It was very fun. Yeah, the day one raid experiences are like they've been kind of touch and go the past couple. Like the first couple of raids, because there was like they were trying to figure out like what's an appropriate power level for people to be able to do it at. When do we release the raid after an expansion? Is it the week of? Is it 2 weeks later? Is it the day of? They've kind of been like that's changed the past couple of raids, and they've been not so good. The last couple, however, have been very good, where it gives people time after the expansion releases to play and level up to prep for the raid, but it also has the contest modifier that we talked about briefly, where it limits your power. So it doesn't matter if you're a content creator who plays like 400 hours the first week of an expansion that comes out and you get like 20 levels over what the raid's going to be, or you play a little bit after work every day and you're right at the power level. You have those two groups of people that I just mentioned are brought to equal with the raid, or slightly under where the raid is, so everyone's on an even playing field on day one.
Yep.
So that's just a very healthy experience for everyone who's trying to get that 24-hour clear, because it helps with the game development side of it too, because Bungie doesn't have to try and balance the raid around people who play for 400 hours a day 400 hours in a week and people who play 10 hours in a week.
Right.
They don't have to try and balance it for both of those groups of people. They can just balance it to where this is your power level, and if you're above it, this is your power level still. And they can just balance it around that power level, and then it's just easier for everyone to access, which is they haven't always done that, but the last couple they have done that, so they continue doing that. That's obviously a good thing.
Yeah. I also just think that the day one experience is just something that I feel that anyone who has any sort of interest in Destiny raiding, like, give it a try.
Try to do a day one.
Yeah.
It's super fun, especially if it's a new raid.
Mm.
Just like going in 100% blind and not knowing anything and trying to figure everything out is just so fun. And like, yeah, it's gonna take 14 hours, but like, it's super fun.
Yeah, you grab your good friends and you get together and you can just have a great time. I mean, that's what happened with us last night. We were on for I think 12 hours, almost 12 hours, and we ended up getting the clear. But I had so much fun doing it.
And yeah, for sure. And we actually did, like, if you think about it, we did 2 raids in 12 hours, where usually you only do 1, but it's because it's kind of, we're not 100% blind going into Vault of Glass since it's been a thing already. But yeah, still, it was still super fun. Like you said, getting your friends together to do it. It's the reason why we're called the Friendgame podcast. We make a meme out of it, but like, this because that's actually what it's about. So 100% agree.
Shoutouts to our crew.
Not just kidding. Fuck those guys.
I gotta give those guys shoutouts because they were.
We were cracked gamers last night. Actually,
yeah, we turned it up to 11 last night.
Again, like we've been saying, because the raid has been redesigned to force everyone to be like paying attention on their game. We got the clear last night, so that means everyone was paying attention and on their game.
Actually,
it was really fun. Just because, like, when we got it, we know we got it because we were all just pogging out.
Yeah.
And just playing super well, which was just another layer of just like satisfaction that we got at the end of it.
Yeah, overall the statistics for this raid clear were interesting actually. The I think they only counted the challenge clears, I want to say.
I think they were separate because there were 2 separate challenges. There was the normal clear that you had to do before to gain access to the challenge mode, and then there was a challenge mode.
Okay.
And actually, that number that we were talking about in our other Discord that you saw, Alex, that number includes multiple runs by the same raid team.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you did 3 runs yesterday, that counted for 3 in that number. So we're like, it's actually less like that. It was like, what, 2,800 teams?
Yeah.
2,800 clears. It's actually less teams than that because obviously people had done more than 1.
Right. Okay.
So
that makes sense then.
That number is slightly inflated than what it actually is.
Wow. So then that means that...
Which means we did better than we originally thought.
Yeah. That's actually crazy, though. That, was it 2,800 teams only made it through that day 1 experience for that.
Yeah, 2,800-ish.
Yeah.
Because we were top 500 for challenge mode clears in the world.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, we weren't even doing it. We were just kind of casually going for the day 1 clear, right? So.
Yeah, we were by no means going for a world first clear. We wanted to get the 24 hours thing because it was really funny. We did the normal road clear, then you get like a special emblem for doing it within the first 24 hours. So we did the first clear, we got it. We're like, oh, sick, cool. And then the challenge mode clear, like, achievement is right next to that, so we panned over and our one clan member's like, wait, the emblem for the challenge mode is sick, we have to get it, I'm forcing you guys to do the challenge mode. So we were all looking at it, we're like, oh, he's kind of clean, you're right. So that was awesome. So then it was when we got that other achievement, we got the cool emblem, then we got the super cool emblem. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Plus, actually, like, it was another raid run, so we just like got more items from it too, which is nice. So
I just think it's pretty crazy because the last raid, Deepstone Crypt, had a lot of day 1 clears.
It had a lot of day 1 clears. Yeah, it was actually wild. I don't remember exactly what the number was.
I mean, I guess my guess would be because it's kind of in the middle season for Destiny now. It's not a huge expansion release, so I probably caused the player numbers to kind of go down for.
Well, also, and like, I wonder if having to run the raid twice had any effect on that.
Maybe.
Because obviously a lot of difficulty in day one clears are having to you're going in blind and having to figure out the mechanics from scratch.
Yeah.
But the other side of that coin is a lot of the difficulty comes from, all right, we know what the mechanics are, we just gotta like do enough damage to the boss. Since we're under leveled, it's like artificially difficult to do that. So I wonder if, like, let's say you're a team that historically quickly figures out mechanics but has a hard time with boss DPS, you probably still had a hard time during this.
Yeah.
Because even though you had to figure out less mechanics, you're still struggling on the part that you're historically not as strong at.
Yeah.
Strong at as the DPS part. And then now you had to do that twice because you had to do a second clear in order to get the challenge clear.
Right.
So I wondered if that hindered teams at all. I don't know how you would go about getting that information, but that would be interesting to look into, I think.
I'm also wondering if maybe it's the fact that it was just, it was just Vault of Glass, right? It was
That's
just
true. There might have
something.
been just less teams trying it, therefore less teams completing it.
Yeah. Maybe they just weren't interested in seeing this. They're like, oh, I did this back in Destiny 1. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
maybe now that the day one has been cleared and all the new mechanics have been revealed, maybe that might bring them, around to at least trying the raid again.
We know at least one person who's like, oh wait, Vault of Glass is back? What do I got to do to get that? So we have one person starting Destiny 2,
Destiny 2
like
again?
2 hours ago he started, or something like that, because he wants to do Vault of Glass again. So hopefully that is the case more so more people join in and start playing.
Yeah.
Because taking people through Vault of Glass again, if we've like any of our raid members have friends that want to do it, I love bringing new people through. It's so much fun. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. It is a lot of fun. Especially if like it's a nostalgia trip for them too, right? So
well, yeah, especially if they've done like, oh, I remember doing this, so we get to like, yep, this is everything that you know, but there's a couple extra things, so we gotta kind of get to do that too. So that's cool.
All right. Well,
I think that's everything that we're here to talk about today. If you had anything else.
Nope, I don't think so. I just want to do more of that raid. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, hopefully we were talking about it last night after we spent 14 hours doing a raid. We're like, so are you gonna do some more tomorrow? Or... so hopefully we're getting together soon to do that.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we said, both of us already. Overall, it gets a Friendgame podcast stamp of approval from us. New Vault of Glass.
New Vault of Glass, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
All right. Well,
so I guess let us know what you guys thought listening in. What did you like? What you didn't like? Maybe were the changes good or bad in your opinion? We did a lot of hyping it up, saying good things about it. If there's anything that people didn't like, I would actually like to hear some different points of view, because obviously my point of view is skewed. We just did it and it was a lot of fun. I may have been looking past some of the things that were kind of annoying. So. Point any of that stuff out. I'm always interested to see what other people think. So please let us know.
Yeah, and if you haven't played Destiny before, I would ask, maybe ask something like, would this be something that you would be interested in after hearing about this, or maybe going out and watching some videos on it? So.
I would suggest watching some videos on it. The game is actually free to play, so if you wanted to just give it a shot and see how it feels, you can 100% do that, and then get into expansions, season pass bullshit afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually a lot in the game if you're a free to play player. They redid that new player experience recently within the last year or two. Obviously, neither of us kind of know exactly what that is, because obviously we've been playing since release of the game, so we don't know what the new player experience is if you come in 2-3 years later.
Yep.
But super fun game, even though it has its ups and downs, and it's free to play, so you can get in without too much investment.
Yeah. If you have any friends that that play it, that you may know that play it, or maybe you have some friends that are kind of on the edge and you play it, give it tell them, hey, it's free to play. Jump in, do some strikes with them, see how they're gauge their enjoyment of it, and then go from there. Maybe you got a new
some aliens with your friends, man.
All right, I think that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks again for listening in. This has been episode 6 of the Friend Game podcast. My name is Ian, and this is my friend Alex.
Peace.
Please leave a comment. See you later.
Later.